It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles.
Welcome in. It's Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio. I'm Jeff Parles. Alex White's alongside. We're happy to be with you. Chris Fallica, the Bear, Fox Sports, where you can find Chris's work now with us in about 5 minutes from now. Of course, doing a great job always on Bear Bets Pod as well. Him and Jeff Schwartz. See him on Big Noon Saturday on Fox as well. So we're excited to have Chris in about 5 minutes. But Alex, did you enjoy your Vegas weekend, which is the nice Tuesday, Wednesday off days in this spot?
I did. It's the best time of the year. I mean, I always had games on to watch, of course, between college basketball. We've got college football throughout the week. So it was a nice weekend. Got caught up, ready for the weekend, and ready for this show.
Let's get into tonight. And it is a doozy of a football game. Ryan McCormick is ready to roll with it, as always. The Chicago Bears hosting the Carolina Panthers. Get into this for a few moments here. Carolina is a 3.5-point underdog. Total is 38. Alex, I didn't do anything here. If you made me play this, made me, I would take the points with the Panthers. Would not shock me if this is a tight game, but it feels like a lot of things are in play tonight. It could be a good performance like Tyson Bagent had against the Raiders. Maybe he's just a little more comfortable in a home environment so far. Turned it over 4 times last week in New Orleans, and only a touchdown loss. Somehow the Saints managed to make that game a lot closer than it needed to be. Carolina, it's been a struggle for Bryce Young so far in his early NFL career, the number 1 overall pick.
I can't disagree with you. That 3.5 was very tempting. I feel like I got burned from that a lot this past weekend, though. I mean, with the Jets, who else? The Bills, well, we were only getting 2.5, but so I stayed away from the side, and you're going to think I'm absolutely crazy, Jeff, but I actually put a half a unit on the over tonight since it moved down to 38. I think that number is a little too low. I'm going against the money. I'm going against the trends. I know these primetime games have all gone to the under, but really when I dove into this, so getting a little frustrated with my totals for NFL, decided that each team needed a home total and an away total. Did that this week at my Vegas weekend and really looked into these. And then when I made these numbers with Carolina and the Bears, my number was a lot higher than 38. And then when I dove into it, the Panthers are 3-1 to the over on the road this year, allowing an average of 36.3 points a game and putting up 20.5. The Bears 3-1 to the over at home this year, allowing 25 points a game and averaging 22.8. So now we've got these two teams. Not the best defense, right? We know the Bears, they can stop the run. They're holding their opponents at 3.3 yards per rush attack, but they're not very good against the pass. So we're going to see Bryce Young throw the ball a lot, and I think he might have some success doing that tonight. On the flip side, you already mentioned Tyson Bagent. We have seen some good things from him. So 2 rookie quarterbacks trying to prove themselves. Coaches aren't afraid to let them throw the ball down the field. 2 weak defenses. 38, pretty low number. So I took the over tonight.
Good luck. That's all I'll say there. I just don't trust. I don't trust these offenses enough. Now, the Raider game with the Raiders and the Bears, that game went over pretty comfortably in that one where it was Bagent making his first NFL start and then Hoyer playing for the Raiders. With Hoyer, it obviously was a disaster, and it was so bad that it was in part of McDaniels losing his job. This is a horrible game. If this was at 1 o'clock Eastern, we would be talking about it for about 30 seconds, and we'd be moving on to the other game. The only reason we're giving this as much wind as we are is because it's a solo window game. Did you land on any props tonight or no?
Anytime touchdown for Adam Thielen. And
okay.
That's about it. What about you?
No, nothing.
You
nothing.
Really did stay away.
No,
I mean, it's not my lock of the week by any means. It's not my favorite play. And I could definitely see a very ugly, barely move the ball down the field. Can't even get 20 points on the board. But then, like you mentioned, we've seen signs from both of these teams. I know the Panthers are very beat up on the defensive side, so the Bears might be able to do a lot there too.
38 the total, 3.5 right now the number on this one, right behind us here at the South Point. There are some college football games tonight that we can hit these right now as we wait for Chris. Virginia on the road in Louisville tonight, 20.5-point underdogs, 50.5 the total on this one. Louisiana, an 8-point favorite at home against Southern Miss.
I like both of these favorites here. I definitely do. I think both of them get the wins. Louisville, I mean, I couldn't lay 20. If it was under 2 touchdowns, I would take it for sure. Virginia just 1-4 in conference. And then on the other side, Louisiana, I think that is definitely the right side to be the favorite. No plays for me, though, here. I do have a play on tomorrow's college football, though.
We'll get to UNLV in a second. Virginia is 2-7. They had obviously the back-to-back huge efforts, that shocker that really ended North Carolina's run to potentially be a college football playoff team by accident, an ACC championship appearance as well, and then almost took Miami out the following week. And then back to reality last week for Virginia as they got pummeled at home by Georgia Tech in that one, 45-17. Louisville, again, everything to play for going into tonight, 8-1. Destroyed Va Tech last week. Now with 2 more conference games to go, they win out. They will play Florida State in an ACC title game. Actually, you know what? I have to see how all the tiebreakers out, but they probably would still get there with 2 losses as well. There's a whole collection of teams at 3-2 in ACC play right now at UNC, Boston College, Duke, NC State, Va Tech. Obviously, they beat a few of those that I already mentioned. Beat Duke, beat Georgia Tech, beat Virginia Tech, beat Duke in that mix for Louisville so far this year. Right now, the Cardinals trying to get themselves into the ACC title game. Well, you know,
televised game. It'll be on ESPN. I think the Cardinals really show up here. Since their loss, I mean, they've outscored their 2 opponents 57-3. So I would lean more towards laying the points with the favorite than anything. Do you have a feel for that? It's a lot of points.
It's a lot of points. It's a number with that total that feels right, even though we know that Louisville's coach and Jeff Parles was known for offense at Purdue. It has been the Louisville defense that has been the reason that they've been as good as they've been this year. 3 points the last 2 weeks. That's probably not sustainable. Virginia's offense has been better since the quarterback change there. Tony Elliott, again, a long way to go there. There at Virginia. I didn't have anything on that. And then the other game, no thanks. As Vinny says, they don't have to book every game. Or excuse me, I don't have to bet at every game. They have to book every game. So no thank you on that. Let's go to your alma mater real quick. UNLV tomorrow, late night, at Allegiant, taking on Wyoming. UNLV has gotten bet in the market here, Alex, to 5.5 with a total of 50.5 here.
Yes, so we actually talked about this game briefly on Monday. It was still 3.5. I went home. I took the Rebels minus 3.5. I'm glad I did. I wasn't expecting so much movement all the way to 5.5. I don't know if I would still lay it there, but I do think this is a great spot. If it was in Wyoming, I may not be on this game quite as heavy as I am, but UNLV, they're playing great, and they're playing really good at home, so I like the Rebels here at Allegiant Friday night to get this win.
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to bring Chris Fallica on when we come back after the break, live from State College at Penn State. Big one. And we have plenty to talk about with that Michigan whole situation with Connor Stallions. It's Sports by the Book here at the South Point studio.
South Point is also proud to provide a variety of relaxing amenities for the guests who want to be pampered. Soak up the sun and let your stress melt away in our lagoon-style paradise swimming pool. A relaxing getaway where you can bask in the desert sun and enjoy seasonal food and bar service poolside. And if you really want to escape, come to Spa Costa del Sur. From couple suites to a co-ed wet area, our spa caters to business and leisure travelers who want to unwind and elevate their senses. A visit to one of our spa's steam, sauna, or whirlpool treatment rooms will leave any guest feeling like they can take on the world. Our gaming amenities include over 60 table games and over 2,600 of the most popular slot and video poker machines. We have penny slots, including the popular Buffalo games, and real machines like Wheel of Fortune, Triple Sevens, and Megabucks. If you prefer video poker, try Deuces Wild, Double Double Bonus, or a variety of multi-denomination games. Or try your hand at one of the most popular casino table games in the world, Blackjack. Don't let the game intimidate you. Blackjack, also known as 21, is both easy and fun. And our dealers are always happy to assist. And the best part? Blackjack always pays 3 to 2. Next, check out the roulette tables. Roulette is one of the easiest casino games to learn, and so much fun to play. It's a favorite of both beginners and seasoned players. In addition to blackjack and roulette, our casino pit features over 60 popular table games like Baccarat, Pai Gow Poker, 3-Card Poker, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and Mississippi Stud. So get out of your room and come join in the fun.
That's the South Point Sportsbook behind us. You can see the back of our heads here in the South Point studio. I'm Jeff Parles. Alex White is alongside. We're happy to be with you. Now joining us of Fox Sports. You know him as the Bear, the Bear Bets podcast weekly. Chris Fallica joining us right now from State College. Bear, thanks for being with us today.
Happy to be here. Sorry, because I have that first why I can.
Yeah, Chris, we're getting every other
State College, so the best of it.
Chris, we're going to try to connect one more time with you on there. We're getting every other word there. So let's mute that up real quick. We'll get him back on in a second. Alex, going back to the UNLV Wyoming game real quick. I just want to go back there because as we look at the Mountain West standings here, where UNLV is tied with Fresno, they would need Fresno to lose once in order to make the Mountain West title game. And, of course, they would have to win out themselves. Just looking at the way that this game is played out here, I didn't bet this one. 5.5, I don't mind. I don't mind taking it with Wyoming to go oppo here. Of this, the one concern is how will that offense travel?
Oh, absolutely. And Wyoming has been better at home. I'm just amazed, honestly, Jeff. They have won 7 games this year, and that is the same total as their last 3 years. Like, it is a huge difference that we've seen in this Rebels team. They're fired up. They go to each game prepared. You know, we kind of thought we'd see a drop-off after they got their 6th win. Oh, we're bowl eligible, but we haven't. And we've seen the same good Rebel team. They did outstanding last week. They blew out New Mexico. So I'm expecting a really good performance. I don't think 3.5 for the Rebels is asking too much. 5.5, though, I agree with you. It's almost like little too much. I could see why people would take the points with the Cowboys.
You know, just again, the total on that is right. UNLV, obviously, their offense is way ahead of what their defense has been. That probably won't be the case much longer with knowing Barry Odom's track record of coaching defenses. By the way, there is one other college game tomorrow night, and obviously you'll be on with Frank tomorrow on Punchlines. What if anything, are you doing with SMU and North Texas at a 17-point line on this one and a 67?
Nothing for me here. I made the game SMU minus 16, so it's a stay away from me. I think the total is right as well, 68 and a half that I'm seeing out there. But SMU is still playing for their spot for a conference championship. Them and Tulane and San Antonio, actually, all undefeated in the conference. So can't make a case for North Texas in this one. I do think SMU gets it done.
I can't. I have nothing on this game either. 17 the total. 17 SMU laying at 66.5 and 67 the totals that are out there on SMU and North Texas as we go along on this. We got him? All right, good. We got him. Chris Fallica, from State College with us right now. Bear, I think we got everything all settled here.
Hopefully, yeah. No, it's
there we go.
definitely on your. Yeah, that's exactly the shop you wanted, right? Yeah, we're old school cell phone technology. We turned the phone on the side, and not the greatest Wi-Fi signal in the room here, so I apologize.
All good, all good.
But we're here, and you get a good view of my nose and head here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Chris, just let's go to the game you're covering here. Michigan and Penn State. Of course, the whole college football world has been on Connor Stallions the last few weeks. Obviously, this sign stealing stuff. I think it's a whole boatload of nonsense here more than anything. We know everyone steals signs. Michigan was just a little more brazen in how they went about it. But when push comes to shove here, Chris, what do you think ends up happening from the Big Ten's perspective on this? And obviously, if Harbaugh gets suspended, it does impact things. But if he doesn't, it really does. There's a whole lot of noise about nothing here.
I yes and no. Like what Michigan has thrown out there to like muddy the waters with this has just been about, people had our signs and they were sharing them. But the difference is it's kind of two different things. There's an NCAA rule against like in videotaping in an opponent's stadium and stealing signs like that way. Like there's an actual rule against that. Whereas what everyone else was kind of doing, like that's kind of been like the dirty little secret that everybody does it. So like the two things are different, but ultimately, I don't think anything is going to happen this year in terms of like Michigan being ineligible for anything or vacating wins or losing games this year. I think probably what will happen is they'll probably suspend Harbaugh. The Big Ten will suspend Jim, and then they'll have the right to appeal, and the appeal will take as long as it needs to take, and the season will be over, and Jim Harbaugh will be the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers, of the Chicago Bears, or the Washington Commanders by the time anything really happens with this. But I am curious what you and Alex might think about, because I do think from a betting standpoint, like while college football playoff title futures and Big 12 title futures certainly aren't up for a situation where they're going to be lost. Like, I'm curious how maybe some Heisman voters might view this. Will they maybe not vote for J.J. McCarthy because of his association with Michigan, and maybe they don't want to give a Michigan player a benefit of the doubt for an award if there is a real legitimate candidate and debate and discussion to be had. So, like, I'm holding a J.J. McCarthy ticket at 25-1. I have a Jaden Daniels ticket at 35-1, which got blown out of the water last week when Daniels got hurt. So, as someone who has a McCarthy ticket, I hope that's not the case, but I do think ultimately that might be something. We've seen some Heisman voters be very petty in the past for a lot stupider stuff, so I'm curious how that plays out. But ultimately this year, I don't think Michigan will have anything to worry about in terms of not being able to play in the Big Ten title game or the college football playoff.
Yeah, Chris, I'm with you. I think that last part, there's no way that the league would interfere that much on something with that. And also, of course, why would you want to possibly mess up your opportunity at a national championship where it seems that this is the best chance a Big Ten team is going to have in a long while? It's interesting. And Alex, I'm just curious on what Chris just said on that. I think that J.J. McCarthy's done, Bear. I don't think he has a chance to win the Heisman because of what you just said, where I think they're going to be voters, and you know it better than me. There are so many voters that just vote other ways for total and utter nonsense. And now they actually have somewhat of a legitimate reason to not vote for a Michigan kid. And it's not J.J. McCarthy's fault, but it's going to get held against them here. I really think that Heisman Trophy is coming down. Whoever wins the game here in Las Vegas, assuming it is Washington and Oregon on that first Friday in December, whoever wins that game, whether it be Washington or Oregon, Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr., Alex, I think the winner of that game wins the Heisman Trophy.
I hate to say it, Chris, but I completely agree with Jeff. I do think that will play a role in him getting the Heisman, and I think those two are they are the favorite right now.
Yes, Penix is the favorite right now. Nix is the second favorite.
I think it will come down to one of those two.
Bear, just looking at the game. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say it was interesting because last week's Bear Bets pod, Sammy P or Will Hill had asked me, like, if there's someone you could bet that you don't have a ticket on, who would it be? And I said it would be Bo Nix. And I think last week at the time, he was right around 4.5-1 or 5-1. And now the best price I've seen him around is 2-1. So I guess you just have to, they'll be favored. in the Pac-12 championship game if they do get there. So you're probably not going to, unfortunately, right now be able to get a better price on Nix to win the Heisman than say 2-1. But if you like Penix to win the Heisman, I would just kind of wait right now and see what that money line will be in the Pac-12 championship game, because you probably get a little bit better of a price on Penix on Washington being an underdog in that game than you would on what Penix is right now to win the Heisman.
I agree with you on that. And also, too, Bo Nix has the USC defense game, even though it may not be the same what Alex Grinch got there this week. Right now, you said it, Bear. 2-1 seems to be the best price out there on Nix, as low as plus 160 in the market right now to win the Heisman. Penix plus 150 in most shops. I think the worst price I see for bettors, plus 120 right now out there on Penix. All right, let's go to the game, though. We'll get back to the Pac-12 games in a little bit, but to the game you're at. Michigan on the road at Penn State. We saw what Ohio State's defense did to Drew Aller in Columbus. Now Aller and company get to face another elite defense, but they at least get it in their own building here, Baron. As you look at this game with Michigan right now, 4.5 or 5-point favorites in this one at Beaver Stadium with a total of 45. What would the way that you would look at this game be from a betting perspective?
I think I shouldn't say I think, because the first question that I gave myself was, how many points ultimately do we think Penn State can score here? Mm-hmm. They scored 12 in the shoe against Ohio State last month, and I'm not sure that they're going to be able to muster many more points here. I think 20 is like a perfect, great case, ultimate top-end scenario for Penn State. And I actually saw earlier today, I saw Penn State total 20.5 minus 130. I don't know if that's still around in places like some of the apps that aren't available on Nevada. That's where I actually got that. But I took under 20.5. I think that's probably the way to look at it. But I can see this as being like a 21-17, 24-17 type of game, because Michigan has been great, but at the same time, they've played some terrible offenses. As you know from following this league, some of the worst scoring offenses in the country are in the Big Ten. So it's not like they have gone out and played this great murderer's row of offenses. So this will be a test going on the road against a really good defense. And if they find themselves in a struggle to score points here against Manny Diaz's unit is really good. They did a great job against Ohio State a couple of weeks ago as well. So I would, if you're looking just to play the side in the game, like I'm sure a lot of people are, I'd probably take Penn State plus the points here. But I do think we're looking at like a 21-17 type of game. I feel a lot better about the totals in this game than I would the side.
Well, that makes me a little nervous, Bear. I've got a ticket over 44.5. I was going to ask how you felt about that. But if you don't think Penn State is going to score more than 20,
I'll say this, but you got a good number there, though. Sometimes, and I know Steve Fezzik, someone who follows this rule, it's called the bridge too far. I think this number opened at 47 or 47.5, and now it's down to 44.5. Maybe it's just gone down too far at this point where it's worth buying back at that low number. So you got a good number there. So I wouldn't consider that a loser at all yet, Alex.
Okay, I thought so too. And I want to ask you, how much do you put into the revenge factor in games like this? Michigan won last year 41-17. Do you think that can help get Penn State fired up and ready for this one at home?
Well, that's something that James Franklin, I'm sure, will certainly play up with his team. Again, another top-ranked opponent that they lost to, gave up a lot of points, really and I think that game was close at halftime, if I remember. I think it might have been 21-17 or something like that at halftime, and then the second half just got completely out of hand. So I can see Penn State here at home really kind of. I think the bigger macro situation here is too there is a lot on the line here for Penn State. I mean, there is for Michigan as well, but if Penn State wins this game, the favored scenario the rest of the way will be Ohio State losing to Michigan and Ann Arbor, and you would get into a situation there where you'd have Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan all with the same record in Big Ten play. And I think most people think like the tiebreak is like college football playoff rankings, but it's not. It's this convoluted tiebreak where you take the combined winning percentage of your opponents from the other division, and the team that has the best winning percentage amongst those opponents, that's who goes. And Penn State played Iowa, and it's not often you can say playing Iowa is a good thing for your opponent. But like Iowa is ahead in that division right now, and they have the best record. So it could come down to ultimately the fact that Iowa and the other two opponents from the West that Penn State played have a better record than the opponents that Michigan and Ohio State did, and that could ultimately get the Nittany Lions to the Big Ten championship game. So they got to win tomorrow and hope Michigan can win the game in Ann Arbor in a couple of weeks. So yeah, Penn State certainly needs to take this approach that they are not out of this by any means whatsoever.
Oh, Penn State were to win, and then we get that tiebreak. Penn State will be big fans of Iowa, Northwestern, and Illinois. Those were the cross opponents this year from the West.
Because why not, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's college football.
Yeah, exactly. You know what, Chris, I wasn't going to bring this up until later, but since you brought up Iowa, I have to do it right now. We have a 28 total in this game with Rutgers and Iowa. Iowa's down to being a 1-point favorite. You know what the scary part about this total being 28 is, Bear? I still think
go over.
It's still too high. It's still too high because now you're on top of – look, Iowa's offense is inept against everyone. Rutgers' defense is legitimately really good.
Yeah.
So Iowa can't move the ball against bad defenses. How are they going to be able to move the ball against a defense that, quite frankly, I thought played a great game last week against Ohio State? And that final score was not indicative to what that game was.
No, Rutgers was going in to take an 8-point lead.
9-point lead.
Yeah, and you had the fluke interception there, and that kind of turned things around. But you're right. That Rutgers defense is good. Offensively, they're terrible. But yeah, it was funny. I asked the guys on the pod earlier today, like, what would it be for you to have to go over in this game? And like, no one wanted to go over 28. And I think Sammy P finally said that 27. I think the risk is 17-10 and maybe pushing on that. Like 27, you can maybe get a bye, but like, who's scoring in this game? And there isn't a chance in the world I would go over 28. That's for sure.
It's a really big weekend this weekend. Who do you think is the most vulnerable, and who could you see getting the upset over one of these undefeated teams or one of the top 5 ranked?
Well, I think if you look at both, it's a good storyline for this week because you have Alabama coming off of the emotional win against LSU at home. You're laying double digits on the road at Kentucky, and Devin Leary, I think, is finally getting healthier, which is a good thing. And those of who know Mark Stoops know that he lives for situations like this where his team is written off with no chance. He's going to have an opportunity to ugly this game up. And look, this is still going to be Alabama on the road. And this is a good Alabama team, not a great Alabama team in terms of like comparing it to other Alabama teams. But they could find themselves in a game on Saturday afternoon, getting up a couple weeks in a row, getting up for Tennessee, getting up for LSU, having to come from behind in both of those games. Like this feels like that third game in a row in the SEC where maybe Alabama early starts a little slow and find themselves in a little bit. I know quite a few people do like Kentucky this week, so that would be one. And I'm curious what you guys might think of the game in Athens between Ole Miss and Georgia, because certainly Georgia has taken the best shots from teams like Auburn where they needed to come back, had to come back against Missouri as well. They've been in games as well where they haven't necessarily been great. And hearing maybe Brock Bowers might be back, that's not confirmed, but he's been rumored to maybe be back this week. But Ole Miss has got a really good offense. I know, Jeff, you saw Georgia up close and personal, where I should say at least really followed that game closely last week. Like you think Ole Miss plus the points there might be worth the play, or maybe Georgia after that game last week might be focused and you might get an A game from Bulldogs?
I'm kind of in the camp where if you made me bet it, I would take with Ole Miss, especially if Bowers is not ready. The one concern that I have with Ole Miss, that was a really difficult game last week for them against A&M. And I don't know if that had to do with the fact that A&M's talent finally showed up in that game, or if Ole Miss was just in a classic look ahead with Georgia waiting on deck for them this week. Georgia showed me a bunch last week, though, Bear, because I didn't know if they had the offense to be able to come from behind against a good opponent and a defense that, other than Jaden Daniels making them look bad, and Jaden Daniels has made a lot of defenses look bad this year, would they be able to come back against a good defense? And Georgia did, and that was clearly, in the end, the right side, money line-wise. Mizzou was the correct side, obviously, getting all those points. I would take 11. Alex, what would you do in that game, if anything?
I have Georgia minus 14.5, so
there's your answer.
So I stayed away from that one. I didn't lay the 11.5 though.
For 11.5 to 14, that's a pretty sizable difference. That might be a little investment there for you to make this week. That's a pretty big gap. I might have to ride your power ratings there and maybe lay that number and trust in your rating there. I like that. Hey, Missouri, we mentioned them, Jeff. Like, you saw what happened last year in that game in Knoxville with the late touchdowns from Hypo, like 66, I think, was it 66-24, I think, 66-21. Like, all they needed to do, I remember watching the game, and the announcers were like, oh, they'll just take it. And no, they didn't. And clearly, like, payback, I think, will be very much on the mind of Eli Drinkwitz this week, and hopefully they have Burden healthy back. But like, I was a little bit surprised Tennessee was favored here. Maybe that might indicate that Burden's not going to play. But I would think Coach Drake is going to be pretty wound up in Como this week. And speaking of revenge, trying to get a little bit of revenge on that game from last year.
Yeah, if Burden plays, and from the people that would be in the know in Columbia that I know, the expectation is that he will suit up, at least give it a go in the warm-ups, and if that goes well, he will be out there. I'm with you. I think Missouri's just a better football team, and Tennessee is so different this year, obviously, from last year. It was the high-flying passing offense. Now it's the big-time run attack that Tennessee has. I moneylined Missouri early this week, Alex. I just think the Tigers are the better football team. And if Burden doesn't play, maybe I'll buy off. But even if Burden doesn't go, I still think they have enough talent on the outside that allows them to move the ball on Tennessee, and that defense will hold up well enough.
I agree. I saw plus money with Missouri here, and I jumped on it as well. But I will be paying attention to see if he goes or not as well. I have another question for you. We talked about a very low total. Let's talk about a really high one. We've got a USC and Oregon total sitting at 73.5. Do you think that is high enough?
I'm going to default and defer and deflect and kind of veer off and say I would lean towards more playing. I have more confidence in the Oregon team total going over than I do about the USC-Oregon game total going over. I wonder after last week, like, ultimately, will the white towel be waved for USC? Like, that was their opportunity. They needed to win that game to get back to have any chance of getting to the Pac-12 championship game. Now it's done. It's over. The defensive coordinator is gone. There are rumors out there about, well, who knows, Lincoln Riley every year seems to be up for an NFL job. Like, how much fight is going to be in that USC team? That's a good Oregon defense that they're going to play. Like, would it surprise anybody if this was like a 48-24 type game, which is like just under 73.5? Like, I think there's a pretty good chance that the Oregon defense does a good job slowing down SC here. Like, the Oregon team total would be the play that I would make in this game, because I mean, Oregon is interesting. This Oregon, I hate the crutch style points for the college football playoff ranking. Like, everybody's out to win games, but Oregon in these next couple of weeks, I think, is going to be out to really make a statement. So much debate about where they should be ranked in the playoff, and you work into some scenarios where, like, you may be looking at a final spot where, say, Georgia goes undefeated, say Michigan goes undefeated, say Florida State goes undefeated, Texas is 12-1 and wins the Big 12, and Oregon's 12-1 and wins the Pac-12. Texas or Oregon isn't going. And what would the committee do? Would they give it to Texas, who is the bigger brand, has the bigger win, one arguably the best win in college football this year, against Alabama by double digits in Tuscaloosa? Or would they go with the conference champion of the league, which has been viewed to be the best league in the country this year? So Oregon's a team that I think if they have an opportunity to put the foot on the gas and put up a number, I would expect them to do so.
I tend to agree with that with you there, Bear. And also, too, you brought up a scenario. The most fun scenario for me would be Big Ten champions undefeated, whether it's Ohio State or Michigan, doesn't matter who it is. Florida State's undefeated. They're not leaving them out at their 13-0. With 12-1 Alabama as the SEC champion, 12-1 Texas as the Big 12 champion, and a one-loss Pac-12, whether it be Washington or Oregon. That would be the scenario where, if we're me, Alabama gets left aside, but I think we all know what the committee would probably do.
No, see, and I had said this earlier today on the pod, and I know Kirk had said it on the show as well on Tuesday night. Like, there's no world that exists where you can have a 12-1 Texas Big 12 champion and a 12-1 Alabama SEC champion and have Alabama in the playoff and Texas out. Like that world doesn't exist. Like I know people, well, if they played now, maybe Alabama would no, but they didn't play now. They played earlier in the year. Texas went to Alabama and won the game handily and convincingly. The best win, like I said, in the country by anybody this year. Like Texas wins all tie breaks, and I don't care that the Big 12 is not as good as a league as the SEC. Texas and Alabama played on the field. That's supposed to be the ultimate decider. Like if two teams are close, you look at head-to-head, like it's like the first rule and criteria amongst the committee. So like there's nothing, no world that exists, like I said, that Alabama can go and Texas can get left out. Now the issue would be, would they put Alabama in over that Pac-12 champion? That's another story. I wouldn't, because I think Oregon right now is playing, I don't know, maybe not the best football in the country, because I mean Michigan's playing really well, but there's no doubt, like on the field, talent-wise, power rating-wise, that Oregon is a top 4 team in this country. That's something that I know Greg McElroy was having trouble with on the show the other night. Like, what would the committee resume best? How do these want? Like, I don't think anybody will argue that Oregon's resume right now isn't as good as some of the other teams out there. But I think if they were to pick up the win against SC, the win in the Civil War against Oregon State, and then beat Washington in the Pac-12 championship game, it's a pretty strong statement to finish the year. And I would hope, as someone who has an Oregon ticket at 35-1 and win the title, that the Ducks would find their way into the playoff. No rooting for the bet there at all whatsoever.
Chris Fallica with us right now. Of course, you can find him on Fox Sports, Bear Bets podcast as well. Jeff Schwartz hosts that alongside. You also see Will Hill and Sam Panayotovich. Anytime I can get a Sam Panayotovich correct pronunciation on the show, I got to do it, Bear. But going back to the Big 12 here for a second, where I'm just curious your thoughts on this, because Texas is going to get to Arlington. They're going to win their last 3 regular season games. They're going to get there at 11-1. At least they should. Even though last week there was quite the scare, even though they were up 20 late in the third quarter. The opponent, I'm just curious, Chris, because it sure looks like Oklahoma's not going to get there now with these back-to-back losses to KU and Oak State. If it's Oklahoma State, who has a loss on the resume to South Alabama, and and it was not a close loss. That was a beatdown that they took at the hands of the Jaguars.
33-7.
Yeah, it wasn't close. And by the way, this kind of leads into your best bet, so we might not even have to worry about this scenario. But if Oklahoma State's there and Texas beats, all right, they end up going 10-3, Cowboy team, that's honestly a scenario where their win the final week of the season is so much weaker than everyone else's week that could hurt them in that scenario, kind of like we saw in the first year of the college football playoff, where you had the Big 12 champion left out, Ohio State gets in, Ohio State wins the national championship that year, of course.
Yeah, I think in the situation the first year in 2014, it was more about Ohio State beating Wisconsin, who was whatever they were, 6th in the country at that point. in the fashion that they did. But you're right. The Oklahoma State is just amazing. Like since that game, and then they lost to Kansas State. Like you would have thought their year was over. But 5 straight wins, 4 coming as an underdog. The big Bedlam win last week. Like. This has to be UCF or pass for anybody. Like it is just the ultimate letdown spot. You got the 3 newbies in the Big 12 remaining for Oklahoma State, Houston, UCF, and BYU, and we certainly see that record has been very well publicized this year between the newcomers in the Big 12 against the old guard, but. UCF is such a different offense with John Rice Plumlee on the under center at quarterback. They nearly went to Norman and won. They had the 2-point conversion stop late. They did get the win finally at Cincinnati to get a conference win. But I think going to Orlando this week off of that Bedlam win is a super, super dangerous game for Oklahoma State. So, yeah, I did take UCF plus the 2.5. I might maybe throw a little money line parlay around robin in there with the Knights and the money line as well, because you're right. I just can't get that South Alabama loss out of my head. It's funny. Give Mike Gundy credit. Like every year, it seems like we're having this same conversation. You lose this quarterback, you lose this running back, you lose this wide receiver, and every year they wind up winning 9 games, 10 games. And he's a head coach that I don't think he kind of gets the recognition nationally that he should, but he's done a hell of a job this year going from that 3 quarterback exhibition that they put on in the desert there in Tempe early in the year against Arizona State, where they were fortunate to win that game, to where they are now, running the ball behind Ollie and sitting in a position to get to Arlington.
All I will say is, Chris, I am sitting on a 40-1 Kansas Jayhawk to win the Big 12 ticket. I would like to find a way to get that to Arlington, but I need Oak State to lose 2 of these games. They're going to all be favored in down the stretch.
Is that what it is? They need to lose. Oklahoma State needs to lose twice. Is that what it is now?
Yeah, it's basically, yeah, Oak State's got to lose twice because, man, that game in Stillwater that Kansas kind of gave away really hurts, because it would be, all right, win this week as a favorite against Tech. You're going to be favored the final week against Cincy. Pull that short upset in Lawrence against K-State in the Sunflower Showdown, and I would at least have hedge opportunities with Texas there. But, hey, them the breaks, as we say here, Alex.
I want to start with my alma mater, and then we'll talk about yours, because the UNLV Rebels play tomorrow night on a Friday night. They are hosting the Wyoming Cowboys. So that line has moved. A lot of action on the Rebels, went from -3.5 to -5.5. Do you agree with that move, and how impressed are you with this UNLV football team?
Yeah, Barry Odom's team has been one of the best stories in the country this year. The way he got hired obviously was a little odd, but it's clear he's making the best opportunity of his second chance that he's gotten. He's gotten UNLV brought a roster influx, bringing him a bunch of guys, and really is one of the surprise stories of the year, and putting themselves in a position where probably not going to get there now, but being in a position at this point in the year to even consider getting to the Mountain West Championship game is quite a year. Wyoming is such a different team outside of Laramie. Like that's a big home field advantage. So I hate having to lay 5.5 now when I could have laid 3.5 earlier in the week. But I would think UNLV at home would be the side there. Like I said, I'm not. Wyoming had some injuries, I think, lately too. Maybe in the backfield. I'm not sure what the status of those guys are. But if I had to play that game, I would certainly I would lean towards laying the 5.5 with the Rebs there.
Well, I hope they get it done. 8 would be amazing. They have 7 wins already, and that's the same as their last 3 years. So let's just keep that going. But let's look at Miami, Florida at Florida State. Now the Hurricanes.
Do we have to?
We have to. You have to tell us what you think of this one.
It's funny. I've gone back and forth with a bunch of Miami alums and friends that were on a big group text, and like I don't know what it is. Like it certainly can't be only the fact that Mario Cristobal and Shannon Dawson didn't take a knee at the end of the Georgia Tech game where they would have won that game and kept their undefeated season alive. And that mishap has totally turn this season around. Like, there has to be something more going on there. Now, I will say, early in the year, I after that Georgia Tech game, I said it's been Miami's MO in recent years. When they've suffered that first loss, their season has kind of gone downhill, and it would be a test to see if they could kind of rally and salvage something out of this season. So far, they haven't. A terrible offensive performance against NC State last week, a terrible second half against North Carolina, and now you're in a position where maybe you're not going to you lose to Florida State, like maybe you lose to Louisville, and then you're going to go to BC in late November in Boston, and I'd love to see what kind of effort you're going to get out of the team from South Florida in a New England late fall kind of blustery weather day, but. I just don't know what to make of Tyler Van Dyke right now. I don't know if he's just completely lost confidence. I don't know if there's a situation where maybe is he hurt or is he injured? Obviously, there's a difference. I don't know if he's just got the yips. I don't know what it is, but he's clearly not the same player that we saw against Texas A&M, and now. With Florida State having an opportunity to really put a foot down. We heard talk about Florida State, and Jeff, we mentioned it earlier about Florida State undefeated. Like, I think Florida State does need to be undefeated to get to the college football playoff. I think they have the least margin for all of those teams. But I would, as much as I would love to be able to say I would take Miami here plus the points, I have a hard time taking Miami plus the points here because I just don't know what we're going to get from this offense. And I think in recent years as well, we've seen a situation where the favorites, the teams that have supposed to have won this game, typically have, if I remember correctly. Like, I know there was a stretch there where underdogs did really, really well, but I think lately, for the most part, that the better team has indeed won, and in most times it has been Florida State.
All right, Bear, before we let you go, when we're talking about it in about a month from now, who are the 4 teams in the playoff?
Georgia, Florida State, Michigan, and Texas.
Pac-12, forget not existing at the end of the year, not existing. It would be awful.
Yeah. It would be awful, but because I think, and this is the issue with the committee. They talk about we want the best 4, but you can't. The thing is, you can't not put Florida State in if they're the 13-0 ACC champion. Yeah, with a win over LSU early in the year. You can't help that the rest of the conference stunk and Clemson wasn't as good, and you needed a miracle to win that game. You can't help that you hung on in a terrible flat spot at BC. You can't help Miami was down. I would love to think Oregon would go, but it's just because we know. I think Oregon would be favored over Florida State. I think Texas would be favored over Florida State. Like, I think there are other teams. Alabama would probably be favored over Florida State. Like, there are teams that wouldn't be in the playoff, I think, that are favored over Florida State. But the committee tends to see resume deserving over just best power rankings, and that's the conversation that we've all had forever. Like, are you better off just relying on some type of power rating to put these teams in the playoff? Because you and I know that, like, the odds are kind of an indication of power ratings. Yes, it's kind of designed to get money on both sides of games, but they're all based off of power ratings on who you think is better. So it's a hard deal, and the committee has a hard job. And next year it gets a heck of a lot easier when it does command. But I would absolutely hate it for Oregon if I were right there. I don't want to say that I'm rooting for a Florida State loss, but I'm rooting for a Florida State loss on Saturday. That would make it. Hey, as a Miami alum, I'd love to see my alma mater kind of rise up and do it, but I think they have an FCS opponent the week after, and then they have the game down in Gainesville, and who knows, maybe the Gators could pull an upset there as well. So I wouldn't give up hope if you're Oregon right now or Texas, because we've seen crazy things happen in this sport of college football where has been involved in some late season games. They've been the upsetter and kind of changed some things around.
He's Chris Fallica, of course, the Bear. You can find his podcast right now, Bear Bets Podcast. Him and Jeff Schwartz do a phenomenal job. Download, listen wherever you get your podcast. You'll also find his work over Fox Sports as well. Bear, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for hopping on with us today.
Appreciate talking to both of you, and let's do it again soon.
Absolutely. Chris Fallica, everyone. Always love catching up with the Bear. Again, on the tweets at Chris Fallica. We move from the Bear. I wish we had if we had the shot available. I'm going to take my headphones off as well. But the shot of Frank that we would have had, where Frank's nose is currently going into the microphone.
This looks like this is very odd. I know the chair goes up, but you got. Oh no, I'll just stay like nope. I'm doing this.
We'll
do this. There we go.
There it is. Frank Nicotero, everyone, the host of Punchlines here, usually in my seat.
Yeah.
Now in Vinny's seat, usually here.
This is the Italian seat.
How did the eye test go?
The eye test went very well. I ran to Costco. It was very exciting after the show. Between this show, they had to strengthen the over. Take the over. I said the over on the strength of lenses had to be higher, and it was. The guy goes, "Yeah, when did you go to an appointment last year? You needed stronger." I'm like, this past April. So yeah. So in 8 months, I need a change, but I think they messed something up in LA. That's why I'm proud to now be a pseudo Nevadan. There's no I. I keep saying
you don't need an I.
Keep putting an I in there because I am in Nevada.
Nevadan, Las Vegan, like you don't need
a Las Vegan.
Yeah, it should be Las Vegan, right? Just
right.
Make it even more.
But I like meat too much.
Yeah, no, yeah. I agree.
Exactly.
100%.
But if he was the Bear, I'm the Cub. The way I'm sitting here in this tiny chair.
By the way,
like giving picks like take Pitt, plays the okay.
So I will say this before we get into your thoughts on this brilliant Thursday night football game tonight. You and I had a nice little conversation before I hopped on with you earlier today that you actually had performed in Columbia, Missouri, the city that the University of Missouri is, and of course, a comedy club and a very strange nightclub.
Yes, exactly.
Deja Vu, which is still there in Columbia, Missouri to this day.
You know what? And I remember there's the smokestack, right? That's the big thing. Okay, so I went to Missouri. It was I believe it was in March, and I don't remember how long ago it was, but I got one of the best compliments ever. Anyway, yeah, there is first of all, there is like a nightclub.
Right, but the nightclub the comedy club's beautiful.
Comedy club's
the
upstairs.
Nightclub is one of the more bizarre places in the whole city, which is saying something.
Yeah, but it's a great club, and I think the guy's name was Matt that booked me, and I got a really good compliment because after the first night, I think it was a Thursday through Saturday club, something like that. So I flew in, and to get to Columbia, you had to fly to St. Louis, I think, and drive down.
St. Louis, about an 80-minute drive on I-70.
That sounds about right. That's what I did. They reimbursed the rental car, So anyway, so I get there and I do the first night and I get off stage and the owner's like, "Wow, man, that was great." I'm like, "Thanks." He goes, "We really thought you weren't going to be funny at all." I'm like, "Wait a second." I go, "Wait a second. Whoa, stop right there." He goes, "Well, let me tell you. Let me explain." He goes, "Most TV guys we get down here are just guys." He goes, "We had Screech here a couple months ago." And I'm going, "Oh my God, you're comparing me to Screech from Saved by the Bell, the late Dustin Diamond, rest in peace." Or, a lot of these guys who are on TV and then they just want to try to make money and go to clubs and they're not really stand-ups, right? So I had been doing stand-up forever. So he was like, "You're like the first TV guy we've had that was actually funny." So I just thought it was just the funniest comic. Because I get off stage, it was a great show. I'm like, "Wow, Columbia, Missouri, this is great." And he's like, "Yeah, we didn't think you'd be good at all. We were just glad to have you here." Because it was after Street Smarts, and I think the show was even still running, but it was a good time. What years were you there?
I was there my college years, I was there from 11 to 15.
Oh, wow.
I then did my grad school years, which was working at KTGR ESPN Radio there from about 4 months after I graduated. So August of 2015 until December of 2018 before I moved out here.
I'm going to have to look up the year. I don't know. I got to find out when I was there, but it was lovely. I mean, the club was awesome. I don't think I went back. I think I did it once. And I remember coming back to LA and talking about it and how great the club was. And I'm dropping names. I like to drop names. Bob Saget, who I used to hang out with the Laugh Factory a lot. Rest in peace, Bob. I go, "Bob, this club's dying to have you, man." He goes, he actually mentioned, "Hey, are you friends with anybody in LA?" I said, "Oh, Bob Saget." He goes, "Yeah, Saget." And Saget looks at me and goes, "Nope, not going to do it." And I go, "No, man, it's a great club." He goes, I do one plane and I land in the city. No rental car, no connecting flights. It's got to be a one plane town, one flight, and I'll do it. And I said, "Well, no." And he goes, "I won't do it."
Yeah, no, well, again, they put a lot of money into the airport there. So instead of now being a bus terminal that functions as an airport, It's now a tiny airport that only flies to 3 cities. So
Okay.
it's improving, Frank.
Well, I'll
It's
see if
improving.
maybe Dave Coulier wants to do it. Maybe we'll get another full house. Who I get recognized. People think I'm Dave Coulier a lot. Cut it out.
You know what, Frank? Actually, let's go back there.
Yeah.
I'll do the opening act. I'll
Okay.
bomb.
There you go.
So you can look even funnier than you already are.
And we'll get you paid to go back to your
That'd
alma
be
mater.
great. Absolutely.
There you go. This
See-
might be something.
see,
I got-
what a scheme.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
just concocted right here.
Profit deal. I like it. But no, I had a great time. I had a great time in Mizzou. That was a lot of fun.
Let's go to tonight's game.
Yeah.
Let's go to tonight's game.
Oh, the NFL game?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, do you have any bets on other sports? If you have other bets on other sports, we're all ears.
Well, Ryan and I made a bet.
Uh-huh.
But we don't know what we're betting on. Oh, yeah, DJ Moore touchdown, right? Okay, so Ryan has his fantasy team. He thinks he's taking a DJ Moore anytime touchdown. I am hoping DJ Moore does not score. And we had Josh Yohe from The Athletic on, and he was talking. We were talking about weird foods because Ryan had to eat a banana with mayo on it. And Josh said he actually likes peas with ketchup. So Ryan's stomach immediately turned. Alex, would you ever try peas with ketchup? Sounds gross.
Yeah.
So we were going to make that to be the penalty for the loser.
Oh.
Would have to eat peas with ketchup. If DJ Moore, it's all up to DJ Moore. I'm in, but I don't know if Ryan, I don't know.
I hate to bring this up, but has Ryan ever had to do anything yet since
Yes,
you guys
today.
started betting?
Just earlier.
This
I
morning.
missed it.
Yeah, he did it.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, Alex
It
is
looked
prepping.
like he was going to vomit.
Okay.
Yeah, he had to eat the banana, peel and all, and he swallowed it with mayo on it.
Oh, wow.
And he had a
Brought
yellow
that back
jacket on, and
again.
his face looked yellow as well.
Yeah, it was really
But
bad.
he did it, and he swallowed it, and then to cleanse his palate, he went with a Dorito with peanut butter on it.
Yeah, which is also gross.
Well, I made him do it.
I actually would argue that sounds worse than the peas and ketchup.
Yeah, but but he doesn't like. Jeff doesn't
I don't like
peanut
peanut
butter.
butter.
Do you know about this?
I don't really love peanut butter.
Oh my God!
There we go. Sports by the book, a non-peanut butter zone. Let's go. There we go.
Peanut butter punchline stands for peanut butter lovers. PL.
There it is.
Because I love peanut butter. Jif. It's got to be Jif though, Ann.
Oh,
with the Coke
man.
Zero. Oh my God.
I'm glad that I bet with you guys and we have our
Yes.
parlay, and I'm not in this.
Yeah, you're not
No,
doing.
yes, we're not against anyone.
Yes.
We're
Right.
just a group that
Yeah.
wants to all win at the same time.
And we
never root against anyone.
Right, no, we all had a hot
the
week.
toxicity of your show, Frank. I mean, right?
The what again?
Toxicity.
Toxicity, yes.
Yes, as I totally butchered a pronunciation.
No,
at first.
I was in my head. I was on. I don't know what happened, but we're gonna do our Friday. We're gonna do our parlay tomorrow.
We
Oh,
are.
yes.
Have to.
That's F. It's Frank and the A's, Alex and the R's, Ryan. Parlay. We hit it last week, and I kind of I don't know if we can purposely do the spread out thing where we did one game Friday, one day Saturday, one Sunday. It worked out. It closed it with the Raiders. She had Oklahoma State. He had the Pacers plus points because Halliburton played on Friday.
Yeah, honestly, yours was no sweat at all. You
Yeah.
as soon as Daniel Jones got hurt, it was
Yeah.
like, all right, I'm going against Tommy DeVito. If I lose to Tommy DeVito, I don't deserve to win. this.
Right, exactly.
Ryan's was, even though the Pacers made it interesting at the end, that was not
Yeah.
really that much of a sweat. And in Oklahoma State,
Great
they went
pick.
outright. So
Yeah.
pretty good all the way. It was a good parlay week.
It was a
which
good
means
one.
Yeah.
we're absolutely both.
Right.
The parlay, your parlay is losing,
we
and the
did
one
three.
that we put together with the Sports by the Book crew is absolutely losing.
a
So
fun-
we will give the donation back. Give a little big donation back behind us.
All right, yeah, that'll be fun tomorrow,
The
though,
odds
right?
are
Oh, yeah.
against us.
And
but
one
we're
of
going
us
for it.
is eating peas and ketchup tomorrow on the show.
I-
If that's not a tease enough, Billy Gardell will be there as well.
That's the good part
Yeah.
right there.
A little Pittsburgher.
You know, you got to get Billy's thoughts on the ketchup and peas.
Absolutely. But again, I'm saying this. Josh is another Pittsburgh guy, born and raised Pittsburgh. Gardell, myself. Heinz Ketchup. I mean, that was like the biggest company. It was that and U.S. Airways. Someone you knew someone who worked for Heinz or U.S. Airways. U.S. Airways no longer exists. Actually, Heinz, I think, moved to Chicago. But anyway, it's still a Pittsburgh product. If you try to give Heinz Ketchup to someone in Pittsburgh, that's like the biggest insult. So
Heinz is still the best of the ketchup.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's still
you know,
not close.
and listen, I like mustard more of a condiment than ketchup.
Okay.
But I can't do the Heinz. I got to go French's. It's a weird thing. I try to stay
Well, are
true
you a
to Pittsburgh.
yellow mustard guy?
Yeah,
or
I
are
like
you a
yellow.
brown mustard guy?
I go yellow.
Okay.
Yeah, brown's a little too spicy for me.
Oh, look at that. You know what? Actually, Ryan, make him put the brown mustard on.
Yeah,
That might actually be
with the ketchup.
with the ketchup. Do both. Yeah, I think that might.
Peas.
I'm telling you, it doesn't sound
It
appetizing.
doesn't sound horrible,
appetizing,
right?
but it doesn't like. I can think of so many worse combinations than peas and ketchup. I guess Ryan's a little bit different on that.
Ryan,
well,
what
also,
would-
but hold
Yeah,
on.
go.
Here, but here's the thing though. Ryan's got enough Chicago in his DNA that ketchup is offensive unless if it's basically on a potato.
Yeah.
A potato dish.
yeah.
Aren't I right on that? Like A potato dish is like the only thing that's acceptable in Chicago.
And Chicago-style hot dogs don't use ketchup, right?
No, I mean,
that's right. That's where you're going.
That's a good way to get run out of Chicago. Is ask for ketchup on your hot dog.
That's the right. See, Pittsburgh that's where Pittsburgh and Chicago ketchup's okay. My cousin puts ketchup in his macaroni and cheese, which that's gross to me.
No,
you don't want to mess with cheese, and you wouldn't do that either.
Well, I understand the hot sauce. Like I understand people. I'm not a spice guy.
Yeah,
but I understand people who put hot sauce in their mac and cheese. I get that. No, it's good. Kitchen by the book.
All right. Well, tonight's game.
But regardless, though, like your bet's going to be settled tonight.
Yeah.
If DJ Moore scores a touchdown, you're eating peas with ketchup on punchlines tomorrow.
And our group text is going to light up.
Whatever. Again, peas are bad on their own, so any enhancement to me makes it okay.
And I need points, so I'm going to have to root for DJ Moore to score a touchdown.
Alex
on the over
Frank.
tonight. By the way, Alex is keeping track of my leans in college basketball so far this year. Pepperdine was a lean in the play for us overnight. They're up by 14 in the second half, catching 8.5. So that would be a bad one if we lost
did we
that.
see how the Apprentice team did? The Apprentice Builders?
Actually, I'm happy you brought that up.
Oh, good.
Because I brought this up to Ryan earlier. Okay? Evansville tonight. Okay? Evansville tonight in college basketball is playing tonight the St. Louis College of the Pharmacy.
I've never heard of that.
The only reason I know it is they are an NAIA school that plays Columbia College. Thank you, Mid-Missouri connection.
Okay, sure.
And they're in the same conference. So that is the great matchup of the Purple Aces of Evansville versus the Eutectics.
The what?
Eutectics.
What does that mean?
It is a pharmacy term of some sort that makes sense. Playing the Purple Aces tonight.
And what's amazing about the pharmacy school is all the signs that the fans make, can't read them. The penmanship's terrible. Thank you, Ann. And never stifle the laugh. How many times? Pharmacists have bad writing. So
I figured you would enjoy that today.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Since John Brown by himself played Baylor
John Brown
very tough today.
Baylor.
Yeah.
And the Apprentice Builders, did we see a final? Tipping
I still can't believe that's an actual school.
The Apprentice Builders,
Yeah, I mean,
Alex.
that's amazing stuff. By the way, that game, and the funny part about it is when you Google it for Norfolk State basketball tonight, it shows up the Apprentice Builders at Norfolk State Spartans.
I'm telling you, I've never heard
incredible.
of it. And you think when you grow up watching the tournament, you've heard of every small college and you get to know, Samford and Robert Morris and Pittsburgh. I'd never heard of the Apprentice or the pharmacy one.
No, the pharmacy, again, I wouldn't have known what the pharmacy was until, unless if I was covering it, I actually called the basketball game between Columbia College and the Eutectics. There's tape of that somewhere.
And do the players have to play for 8 years at the school, like a pharmacy student or something?
I'll be honest with you. I have no idea.
We got to
We're just listed as freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior.
Yeah. So they probably have the same eligibility.
I think it's the
same. Probably same eligibility. Yeah.
I also love that it, again, a legitimate athletic program.
Yeah.
Which also, again, you're taking from a very small pool of people that want to be pharmacists.
Yeah.
Your team can't possibly be any good.
We need T-shirts from both of these schools. That's what we got to do.
I have so many friends in St. Louis. I'll make sure we get one.
We got to get that and the
for
Builders
show.
one.
All right, we've got overtime here, but how could we not when we're talking about John Brown College, the Eutectics, and the Apprentice Builders in college basketball?
That's our parlay tomorrow. That's going to be whatever they're playing in this weekend. We're taking those three schools.
There we go. Frank, thanks as always. Punchlines noon tomorrow with Frank Nicotero. Oh, and Alex White will be there tomorrow on the show from noon to 1, leading into our 2-hour extravaganza Football Friday with Vinny and Chris here on Sports by the Book. Alex, we'll see you tomorrow on Punchlines. We'll see you on Saturday. Big thanks to the Bear, Chris Fallica, for joining us. Great. Jerry, Ryan, Sean, and great work as always in the back. I'm Jeff Parles. We'll see you again tomorrow on Sports by the Book.